What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today we are in Zibo's 737. In my little community on Facebook, I've seen a lot of people having issues with it, so today I'm going to show you exactly what needs to happen. Now, I know I only have like 20, 30 FPS. I'm sorry, that's just explain, you know? Alright, so you're going to switch up here, and there's a switch right here. That's for the power. I just memorized it. That's the battery right there. And now what I like to do right away, come right here and start the APU. And you wait for it to start up. There it goes. As soon as the needle moves off of 0, you don't have to engage it anymore. So now we wait for the APU to kick on. Currently, we're gonna do a flight from Atlanta to Memphis. I already have it programmed using SimBrief. That's what I use. If you guys want a tutorial on how to set that up, I'll help. Just put it in the comments, and I'll do that too. I don't know if you guys can hear. I am playing music through my Discord. So yeah. Atlanta's kind of rainy today. Low visibility, all that hoopla.
Alright, so I'm going to show you guys. Yeah, APU's on, turn that on. Arm the emergency lights.
You just close it, arms it. So now you want to go up here.
So now you want to switch the IRS on. And it's going to do its thing. It's going to take about 7 minutes. So now I personally switched the battery and the APU gen on for the battery setup. Now I always turn off the hydraulic, and I think it's supposed to be off on cold and dark anyways. I'm not sure, I'm not a pilot. APU bleed on, packs auto. Isolation valve on, seatbelts on. No smoke. And I feel like that also needs to be in the middle, I'm not sure. I'm not particularly sure. So next you want to set up the start flight, so then you hear the noises in the back. So that's always interesting. And of course that's your GPU and your set chocks. I will set the chocks, but the GPU I don't need. You turn the APU on anyway, so that's what I start with. I just go ahead and start with the APU. So now remove the yoke and turn the light up. And now I can arm the flight director. The auto throttle won't arm because of IRS. Now I'm gonna set the speed to 205 because I know for the departure that's what works for it. I'm departing 09, so 095 works with my course. Whatever your departure is, set it for that. And of course, if you had the ATC, you could easily modify that. So now, since I'm using VATSIM, I decided to connect to the VATSIM. That's the frequency. But I'm going to turn it off because they're kind of talking a lot. Alright, there's our sign now. So now we just wait. Now I might as well do the FMC stuff. Alright, FMC position initial. Okay, you grab this data on the next page, put it right there. Now we're in Atlanta, so K, ATL, and K because we're in America. And gate doesn't matter. So now there, origin, Atlanta, and we're going to Memphis, okay, MEM. And we are Delta 445. Runway 09 left. And if I wanted to, I could do the co-route, but I'm not going to. I'll actually show you guys how to do everything without using co-routes. Maybe in another video I'll do co-routes. So you go to this page, next page, and I already have everything calculated, and I use what's it called, flight jobs. I recommend for explainers to use that. So now you just click the button and it loads both of those in. 0.5 in my reserve, and cost index is almost always 50. I've never seen it any other number. So it wants us to do 340, but I'm going to stick with 300 for the flight plan, or flight level. So next page, there's your temperature, true air temperature, 14 degrees Celsius. So slash 14, put it in there, and it gives me the N1. But it's nighttime, so I'm going to use a derated climb and take off. So take off, flaps 5, CG, click on it, gives you right away the trim, and press all these buttons to get your V1, VR, and V2. And so what that is, V1 you're dedicated to takeoff, VR is rotate, and V2 you should be airborne. You should be taking off the runway at this point. So now you go to departure. I know I'm using the NASA 2 SID through the Chook transition, and route, activate, execute, and that's it. Now you go arrival for Memphis. You're going to use RNAV. That's a crazy thing. You have to use RNAV. So I'm landing 36 center. So I'm going to use RNAV 36 center right there. And I know I'm using the VASN 2 star through the Wasser transition and through the Memphis. It's Memphis for the arrival on the runway. So it's very simple, straightforward. You'll see it on the flight plan or on the map. I'll show you guys in a second. So that's what I selected. Glide slope on, execute, route, and legs. Now shows up all your legs. And of course there's a discontinuity right there. So you want to grab Wasser, pop up right there, and put it right there. Execute. No more discontinuities. Now I do have a vector, and if you had ATC, they're going to vector you for the runway. Now I know VATSIM, I don't have anybody in Memphis right now, so I'm going to grab the MEM VOR and throw it into the vector side. So click on Memphis and replace vector. Execute. And now what you also want to do, since I have a hold R right there on SB, oh, I guess I get, yeah, there it is. You want to click that and replace that, so you don't stay in a circle loop around it, and it actually shows up on the map. So if you guys, you'll test it out, you can see it. So I want to change the speeds here, because 230 to slow down to 180 is unrealistic, and then 220 at mean is perfect. Execute. And that's set. And once the IRS is aligned, I can see it on the map, and I'll show you guys how to go through the map that way. Alright, so I had to switch out because I had to go I had to get my pre-departure clearance from VETSIM, and I actually had to change runways to 08 right instead of 09 left, and I already did that. It's very simple. You just go into departure and program it in. Very easy. You guys will get the hang of it. Don't worry, the FMCs, you can play with this, not a problem. So what's changed is the IRS is now aligned and the map pops up. So we're going to go here, going to scroll up to here, 5 nautical miles and flight plan. So now it's going to show you the waypoints. So there's the initial. So those are the waypoints. So now step, 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 and it shows you each in every place. And of course, since I changed the runway, it's going to have discontinuity again, so I'll replace Wasser. And now there's your top of descent. TD means top of descent. Top of climb was shown earlier. So now flight level 240A means above 24,000 feet. And then respectively underneath it, it says flight level 230 at Cram B means below flight level 23,000. So if we move in, now you can see Memphis doesn't work. It goes to Nesby. So grab Nesby, replace Memphis, and execute. And now it looks pretty again. Previous page that way, and now we're behind. So now I can show you. Go straight to Nesby, Gina, runway. And that's right there. And then the next page is in for missed approach, go around holding pattern. So you go to Laura and then hold at Laura, making basically right turns. Continuous right turns. That's really what it is. So, next page, we're back to the beginning. Change this to map and increase the nautical mile size. WXR is the weather. Terrain on the right side. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I also did change the altimeter to 3011. That's the altimeter at Atlanta, and you change that by using the standard button next to course. So now we are going to depart 09, so we're going to take a right turn instead of that. So now we're going to go use better pushback. And now it's decided I'm going to go 0, but we're not. So we're going to hit delete. And now we're going to turn the plane to face north. Line it up, press, and enter.
Round to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me
And you get that little message telling you he's ready and set. And now I'm going to arm the auto throttle. And just switch on all the lights.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking off in just a few minutes. Flight attendants, please.
And you get those great calls. And they're even going to come and close the door. So now I have to go over here, hardware config, and change it to yaw, so I have more than 7 degrees of turning. Because if you don't, it's only limited to 7, and I need 40 to turn comfortably. Then passenger show, and last thing is aircraft config and flight plan in case you use co-routes, FMS. Back to the main, and yeah, and of course you have your announcements, but I tend not to mess with them that much. So, I think we're basically ready to go. So since I have auto gate plug-in at Atlanta, I have to turn my brakes off and on again, and the gate will push back away from me. And now I can call the pushback. Now, if you have a slight bit of lag, that is nothing unknown. As you saw, my game froze. That is a standard thing that happens just because better pushback requires so much power at once, I guess, if you can call it that. So now our tow truck's coming. We're going to turn on all our hydraulic pumps and run to yaw dampener on. Light up the panels, you can see. So yaw dampener's light extinguishes, and now not the little one, but the big turn. You switch it back, switch it to heading and STS. Probe heat comes on after pushback. Fuel pumps all on, and I'm going to turn the center fuel pumps on also because I have fuel in them too. I have 2,000 pounds. So, back up here, I switch the seatbelt signs to on the ground.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to
The land altimeter is 1,000 at Atlanta. We're going to be climbing and maintaining 290. Or 330, my bad. 30. If you don't set this, you're going to black out once you get to the sky. And you're going to think your game's crashing, but it's not. It's you're blacking out because the pressurization has not taken into full effect. So now, we can push back. That's what Atlanta looks like with the beautiful rain. Actually, we're not pushing back yet. He has to hook up and lift us up and see. Now the plane's going up. And this is all thanks to better pushback. And it's already installed with the Zibo 737.
So connected and bypass pin inserted.
It's a great feature. So now you release the parking brake. And he's going to start pushing back.
Starting pushback.
So we can start engines now. So pack's off. Bleed off on the engines. Or should already be off. Right, ground. For engine 2, because that's the standard procedure, is to start engine 2. I assume, I'm not completely sure. So now we wait for 25 on N2. Now it's at 10, 11, 12. So we wait for that number to hit 25, and then we give it fuel. Fuel selector, and wait for 25, and fuel. And you can hear it starting up very nicely. And I forgot to do one last thing. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Okay, so Sim Pilot QNH, I set that to captain. And all that does is for the standard air pressure, I can put it on my screen and it's on his screen. See, look, if I go down to 10, it's on 10 on both sides, and 11's on 11 on both sides. So limits the need to do it twice. So since engine 2 started up successfully, set it to continuous, left engine, ground, and I also switched the bus to help the batteries out. I'm going to turn my windshield wipers on because it is raining. Engine 1 is starting up. turn the background lights just a smidge because it looks nice. So we're waiting for N2 on engine 1. And
Operation
park
complete.
brake set and
That's
fuel.
parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
So engine 1, continuous bus, disconnecting hand signal. So PAX, AP bleed on, or AP bleed off, engines on, PAX auto, and isolation valve auto as well. Generator 1 is on engine 1, probe heat on, anti-ice is not required. So this is just the general check now, make sure everything is good,
Tow is
set.
disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the left. We'll see you next time.
Thank
Have a
you.
safe flight.
APU bleed off, or APU, switch the APU off now since the engines 1 and 2 have taken over the power and the packs. And now you see APU EGTs going down. So now systems, gotta do a system check. So full right, full left, full down, full up, right rudder, left rudder, and neutral. Everything neutral, checks out good. Brake temperatures, of course it's a cold and dark startup, so temperatures are completely cold. So now, so recently I've encountered some bugs, but it's not happening now. Where the fuel flow would be 0, 0, 0, and it would not consume any fuel. So I don't know what's up with that, but it's working today, so that's great and fantastic. So that's all set. Switch this to engine and auto brake RTO, rejected takeoff. Flaps 5. Trim is 5.2. Taxi lights on. And I'll be, yeah, so I contacted the VATSIM now. I just jumped screens because I'm doing it over voice talk. So I just contacted VATSIM for taxi routes. And I'm cleared to taxi ramp 3 to, yeah, I don't remember the exact clearance because I am doing a voiceover for it. So now we are ready to taxi. Taxi lights are on, everything's set, brakes RTO, gears down and set. Engines are stable. So now for the Zibo 737, which is nice, all I have to do is push the brakes and it automatically disconnects auto brakes. So now we'll thrust up the engines and taxi. Gonna kick up these wipers, give us some better visibility. I'm going to apologize in advance for the voiceover. It's just it wasn't recording quality very well when I tried to record during flight, so I'm forced to do a voiceover. And looks like that other guy is going to land on the other side of the runway. He's going to land 09 right, which is the standard landing sequence, 09 right. There's also 09 left, and that's used for departures, not arrivals. I don't know why I was switched, but I was. Actually, no, at this point, oh, that was also interesting. I guess FedEx 413, he put the plot thickens. That was interesting for me. I never seen that on VATSIM. It's really interesting. Actually, at this point, the VATSIM are controlling Atlanta left. So we are on Unicom, which happens all the time. So now we're going to use the ATIS for Atlanta. Now, funny thing is I type this in and send it, but I never actually look at it. Now, I normally do, but I didn't. It's just another feature to give you the heading of the wind, the cloud coverage, and whatnot. So we're going to do a right turn, a slight right turn, and then I don't know what you want to call it, like 100, who knows, a left turn. I don't know how many degrees, but like, I don't know, 120 degree turn total. So left turn, and now taxi down to H, Hector. ground speed where the map is says 18, so we're currently taxiing at 18 knots on the ground, which I believe is okay per standard. If I'm not, somebody correct me in the comments. I'd be glad to know something new. I know there's a restriction in Atlanta on the other side for big planes over 217 feet in length, wingspan length. Cannot taxi more than 15. But I have a little small 737, so I should be fine. So now we're gonna hold short of 08 right. Switch on our main lights, which in real life you would switch on after the clearance. Switch off taxi lights. Ground is set on the, or continuous is set for the engines, so that's good. And now I'm going to, since I'm using Unicom, I'm going to tell everybody I'm departing 08 right. So we're gonna rev up the engines, start the clock, and 40% power. Now here where it gets interesting. People say set up a toga switch, and I might do that in the future. And oh yeah, also speed brake arm. You don't do that. For Boeing, it's never speed brake armed. That's only for the Airbus. It's okay. So now the trick that I was referring to is people say set up a toga switch, but since auto throttle's armed, all I do is hit N1 on the MCP, and it'll set the power for me and take off. So watch, hit N1, and there it goes. Automatically revs up to 92.1% on N1. Power is set. So now we're accelerating 80 knots. Now if you had a co-pilot, you would both verify that both sides are reading the correct airspeed. We're zooming through 120, 25, 30. Now V1, V2, and VR are all set at the same speed, but not always will that happen. So now V1. It's a call out, and you rotate 10 degrees. And now that we're off the ground, we try to maintain that speed. Positive rate, gear up. Now you try to maintain that gray mark, so 172 knots on departure. You wait for 400 feet off the ground, and then you're gonna set LNAV like that. LNAV and VNAV. Now LNAV is not taking over because I am too far away from the LNAV path. So we're going to deviate, make a left turn, and set the heading. Oof, lag. Set the heading right there to intercept. And now LNAV has been picked up. So now we're accelerating. So we're going to go flaps 2. And now the engine's rev back down for the climb, since we are simulating the fact that it is nighttime and we do a derated climb. It's raining, it's cloudy, it's terrible weather right now. Now right turn to correct it. We got a headwind right now, so we should be climbing a little bit faster than average. But we are nosing down more now for the speed. So now flaps 1, and that's the up until you pass up, you stay flaps 1. And for departure, you're almost always going to use flaps 5. I don't know in any other circumstance where you would use flaps 10 or 15, maybe depending on the airport. So now we're going to arm the autopilot and set our altitude for 30,000. Turn off our wipers. So it looks like it's a low bearing cloud, only 2,500 feet of rain. So now the autopilot's armed, gear selector is off, and auto brake's off. And at 10,000 feet, you're going to turn the lights off. And at 18,000 feet, you're going to change it to standard. Where it says STD, you're going to change it to, that means standard pressure. Which kind of sounds funny. Since I have captain set, I only have to set it once. I have to press STD on my side, left side, and it'll do it for the right side. Otherwise, you and your co-pilot would do it together. So now we're making a left turn, and sometimes it will do this, even though it's an autopilot. It's going to make a slow left turn, but don't worry, it's still following the LNAV. So the only difference between me and possibly you is depending if you do a derated climb or if you do a regular climb, you might climb faster than me because now I've pulled back my engines, or I automatically pull the engines back. Now I move on and I connect you guys back at 10,000 feet, so lights off. And fuel pump center off. I only do this because we've burned through our fuel already. 50 pounds of fuel left in center tanks, but we already have our other fuel pumps on, so engines stay alive. Tip to always remember in your head. And it's always going to use center fuel pump. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump up with you guys at 24,000 feet, so much higher. Nothing happens besides the fact that I've hit STD for standard air pressure. Above 18,000 feet, you hit standard pressure. That's only in America. In Europe, it's 5,000 feet. So as soon as you get 5,000 feet off the ground, standard air pressure. So now I'm arming the approach. So you'll use ILS charts for me, for 36 center, course is 0, so 0, 0 on both sides. And I did this using my iPad. I have a Navigraph linked to my iPad, so I can watch my plane on my iPad, which is really nice and interesting. So now that's the ILS DME. So you set it to 110.5 for me. For you might be different through your ILS chart. And then, so your VOR 1 and VOR 2 won't say anything, but once you get close enough, it's going to pick up the localizer. So FMC index approach. So now, the important part, glide slope on, and it doesn't matter what KMEM says, because you have to use RNAV. So now I'm going to, that's what it's going to say normally for flaps and speed. You're going to set 40 for flaps, almost standard. You can use something less like 30. You'll land faster. /1 for, it says 7, but it changed to 6 because we're losing weight. So I'm going to set 4 ahead of time. And at the end, before you land, check up on it and make sure that the speed still agrees. You'll be okay though, because I mean, you have another 10 knots, 5 knots maybe, before you reach the stall speed. So as long as you don't set it to a crazy number, you'll be fine. So now we go back and everything's set up. And once you're ready, you hit APP under VOR localizer. You hit approach, and it's going to pick up the localizer, and it's going to pick up the glide slope. So that's all you have left to do on approach towards the runway. But you have to pick up it has to first say the numbers above LNAV before you can do that. So now what I've changed is at the altitude it was set to 30,000 and I reduced it down to 2,000 via my chart telling me at 2,000 I should pick up the glide slope. So you have to be at 30,000 or whatever your cruising altitude is set. You have to be there first and has to match it and lock onto it before you can set it to a lower number or a higher number. Or actually I think if you set it higher it'll go higher, so set lower. So now top of descent right there and decel. So once we get there it's going to reduce and go down. But before you reach top of descent you have to lower the altitude on the MCP or it will not descend. So now I jump ahead again. We're already descending and I'm giving you some nice camera footage. And I was planning on editing these and making it look fancy, but you guys are here for the tutorial, so that doesn't matter really. Maybe some other time. So if you're interested on how I set these up, you just hit Control and 1 through 9 are on your number pad, or keypad. I mean, Control and then hit a number, and that sets your viewpoint. So now the flight management computer is asking for drag, so I deployed my speed brakes, and it's helping it slow down. And as soon as you see the engines rev up a little bit, pull back speed brakes. And don't completely retract them, just pull them back to speed brake arm. So now I turned it back up. And now I jumped up ahead again. So now we're at 7 Celsius temperature, so I already turned off all the anti-ice on the wings and engines and on the heat on the windshield. So we're currently following a FedEx 458 inbound. And I asked him to report when he's clear, and he said will do, so we're set. So, auto brake's 1, speed brake is armed, and auto brake all it means is once you land, the brakes will brake automatically. It's always a great feature, and depending on how much runway you have on, it dictates how much auto brake you're gonna require. So I switch on my lights, and I was actually late for this because under 10,000 feet you're supposed to switch on your lights. I'm late for that, and I already switched the standard pressure to 3008. And I now just activated announcements so you can hear. It does actually say something. And if you go in the back of the plane, you can actually hear it. This is one of my favorite viewpoints because it just looks so nice and amazing. Yay! We're going through some clouds now. Okay, so true air temperature is 10 degrees now. We're following with FedEx, so we are waiting for him to report that he is clear of the runway before we can initialize our final landing. And there we go, we just picked up the DME ILS. So now it says next to CMD, which is autopilot, it says the runway and heading and the DME. So we're now 17 nautical miles away, and that's because I selected it here. Now it's funny because you have to select the ILS on your nav for it to pick it up and land, but you have to select the RNAV on the approach runway on the FMC, and it will work. If you try other things, I don't know if it will work or not. That's just from my personal experience what works the best. So I just now I retracted my speed brakes all the way, and you also want to do this. So it says 2000A, you want to change it to that. You just put in 2000 and execute it. So it will be at that waypoint 2,000 feet exactly, so you can pick up the glide slope. So it is a lot, you gotta learn it. And there's your, underneath the landing gear lever, there's your operating temperature or operating speed for your flaps and gears. So I'm under the speed for gears, so I deployed my gears to help slow the plane down. I'm going flaps 1 now. And you can hear the autopilot throwing the trim up and down just to equalize it. Now we can go flaps 2. And there's FedEx saying he's clear, so we're clear to land now. So I'm going to say 36 center on final, which I'm not exactly on final, because to be on final you have to be lined up with the runway heading and everything, but it's okay for the purpose of this. Now I find this very interesting. When I got out of the clouds, it was really bright outside. Like, it's nighttime, but there's our runway. So now we're going to do a right turn, and I'm going to hit approach. Now you see VOR/LOC, which is VOR localizer. It's highlighted in red, meaning, or highlighted in green with the rectangle box, meaning it's adjusting for it. So it's picked it up, it's turning towards it, and glide slope is in gray, meaning it hasn't picked up the glide slope yet, but it's still following the VNAV path. So we're still set for 2,000, and it's going to do that. Now if it's still turning and you think you're going to go for a different runway, it's still correcting and still turning, so don't worry about it. It's going to turn right, then it's going to kind of stabilize it, then make a left turn, and line up perfectly with the runway. So now, it's a battle to throw those flaps out. So I'm throwing flaps 25 now, 30, and 40. And it's dropping it down all the way to VREF. Now it does do some weird stuff, so I'm going to select speed and reduce it to 144. And we're lining up with the runway now. Autopilot is losing its mind. Those diamonds are on the right side is the glide slope, on the bottom. On the bottom it's the heading. So now I do have the vertical speeds kind of set, but it's not following it. It's still going down to 2,000 feet. Don't know why I did that, but it's set, it's going for it, and VS is not set, which is something you can't do. According to Facebook forums on the same topic, if you have vertical speed set, it will not pick up the glide slope and it will not descend on its own. Just something to keep in mind. So now that we reached 2,000, Alt ACO is in a green box, meaning it's like now it changes to altitude hold. It's leveling off for 2,000. So the autopilot is still in control. I have yet to touch any flight control. And if you also notice on our engine side, it's G/A now, which is go around speed, which means I have a lot of thrust available. And of course now it's revving the engines up high to equal that speed. So final check, flaps are all deployed, gear is down, and speed brakes are armed. That's the 3 things you gotta check, and auto brake is armed. 4 things you gotta check on final. That's my go-to for to check. And there it goes, picks up the glide slope, so now it's gonna descend for me, down to the runway, to a perfect altitude to line up exactly on the runway and make everything so easy and simple. And now it says single channel, so we're locked in for single channel approach. Now personally I do not understand what single channel means exactly. If someone who does, throw it in the comments. Help us all out a little bit. So now I'm going to disconnect the autopilot and auto throttle, and I am now in control. And to disable the red flashing, you just click on the button and it disables them. So now I am in complete control of the plane. No more autopilot. But I'm still using the flight director to direct me perfectly to the runway.
1,000.
As you see, /localizer and glide slope are still set. So now miss approach altitude is 3,000 for a go around to the holding pattern. In case I have to go around for unknown reasons, I can't make the landing for some unknown reason. So now it's just a simple descent onto the runway at Memphis 36 Center. Now the throttle shouldn't really be going up and down crazy. It should be kind of stable, little adjustments left up, up and down, left and right. Of course, with the wind, it's going to push you around a little bit more, because right now I have a 10 knot from 0.8, but it's according to Memphis ATC, or ATIS, it's directly in front of me, 5 knots. So I'm still dedicated to 36 center, and I can land with a tailwind. It's not a problem. 10 knots is nothing.
200.
So that's the localizer beeping now, and it's gonna do one more annoying one. Beep 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 beep. Yep, there it goes.
50.
And now
40,
it's the flare.
30. 20.
At 20, no power needed anymore. 10 degrees, flare, and landing. Now you want to keep the nose up, make it nice and pretty. Reversers on low, and land, and reversers high. Speed brakes are completely deployed on their own. That's why you arm them. As soon as they detect that you hit the ground, they deploy automatically. So when 80 knots hits, you retract the power, but you keep reversers on. At least I do personally. It might not be the complete correct procedure, but that's the procedure I follow. So now I tapped my brakes fully to disarm the auto brake and switch it off. Either one of those will do the trick, but I like to tap my brakes. Retracting the flaps all the way up now, and reversers are off. And now we're going to exit off the runway. And we're going to start the APU up, and we're going to use our brakes because we're coming in fast. This is a high-speed exit when it's angled at this point. And there it goes, APU up. So now I need to stop here and tell them I'm going to, I'm at Charlie 5. I'm going to taxi to the ramp via Charlie. At this point I figured out I'm just going to go Charlie to the ramp, which is literally just going straight. I first was thinking about a left turn, but then I was like, you know what, let's make this quicker, so I'll do a right turn. So, the hardest part and the most confusing parts are done. You took off, you landed the plane, everything's set. And something I fail to do at this point, but I do a little bit later, is to turn off my runway lights and turn on my taxi lights. And I choose this second ramp. It really doesn't matter unless it's like VATSIM where it's fully loaded, but it never is. Now you would turn taxi lights on, but as soon as you get to the gate, you turn them off so you don't blind the person controlling you in. But you know, for a point of realism, I turn them off. But like in Atlanta, I do have it. So brakes on, APU generator on for both. Yeah, engine bleeds off, auto APU bleed on, isolation valve open. Nope, left and right packs are still left to auto. Switch the engines to auto and turn the lights all off. And cut the fuel. And now the engines will turn off. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the little tutorial. I again apologize, I had to do a voiceover because the engine, I just didn't set up properly the audio, so I did have to do a voiceover for it. But that's it. You have now successfully done everything that Zibo 737 is capable of.